The meeting room on Station Alpha was filled with the usual sounds of galactic politics. Delegates from 12 different species argued about trade routes and mining rights. Their voices echoed off the metal walls as they debated who would get the best deals. Commander Hyunwoo sat quietly at the human table. He was a thin man with gentle eyes and graying hair. When the other delegates spoke, he nodded politely and took notes on his small tablet. He never raised his voice or demanded anything. The other species had grown used to this. The humans will accept the standard rate for their grain exports, Y, announced Counselor Vextar, a large insect-like creature with 4 arms. They always do. Hyunwoo smiled softly. Of course, Counselor. We are happy to help feed the galaxy. Behind him, his aide Ji-Hai typed silently on her device. To anyone watching, she was simply recording the meeting details. But her fingers moved across special keys that no one else could see. Every insult, every dismissive comment, every moment of alien arrogance was being recorded in files that would never see the light of day. At least not yet. The Galactic Council had been the same for 30 years. Humans were the quiet ones. They never started fights. They never demanded better treatment. They just worked hard on their small colonies and sent their goods to the galaxy without complaint. This made the other species comfortable and careless. Across the galaxy, on the colony world of New Busan, Taimin wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the massive machines that dotted the landscape. To anyone watching, they looked like terraforming equipment, the kind of machines that made planets better for living. The machines hummed quietly as they worked to improve the air and soil. But Taimin knew better. Hidden beneath each machine's innocent exterior were weapon systems that could level entire cities. Particle cannons disguised as atmospheric processors, shield generators built to look like water purification systems, defense grids hidden inside what appeared to be simple farming equipment. "How are the atmospheric readings today?" asked Sunja, the colony administrator. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes who always asked about everyone's families. "All systems running normally," Taimin replied. "The processors are working perfectly." Sunja nodded and walked on. She stopped to pet a small animal that ran up to her. To everyone around her, she was just a caring leader who wanted the best for her people. But as she scratched behind the creature's ears, her eyes scanned the horizon. She counted 17 installations, 17 weapons platforms that could turn this peaceful world into a fortress in minutes. The same scene played out on colonies across human space. New Seoul had its own terraforming equipment. So did New Dijon, New Gwangju, and 15 other worlds. Each colony looked like a simple farming or mining settlement. Each one was actually a hidden military base waiting for the right moment to wake up. In the capital of the Viridian Empire, Commander Sektar studied holographic displays of human territories. The reptilian warrior was 7 feet tall with scales that gleamed under the artificial lights. His yellow eyes focused on the images of human colonies floating in the air before him. "Look at them," he hissed to his second-in-command. "Weak little creatures growing food and digging rocks. They have no real weapons, no strong fleets. They would not even fight back if we took their worlds." The other Viridian, a smaller creature called Grixnam, nodded eagerly. "The humans have rare minerals on 18 worlds, Commander. Crystals we need for our new weapons. If we take those worlds, we could control the entire sector." Sektar's forked tongue flicked out as he considered this. The humans had been useful trading partners, but they were soft. When other species made demands, humans always gave in. When treaties were written, humans always got the worst terms. They never complained. They never fought back. "Begin planning the assault," Sektar ordered. "We will take all human colonies at once. They will surrender quickly and we will have their resources." Grixnom smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "It will be easy, Commander. The humans have no military strength. Our intelligence says they have only cargo ships and a few old patrol vessels. They spend all their time growing plants and studying rocks." Back on Station Alpha, the meeting was ending. Hyunwoo gathered his papers and stood up slowly. The other delegates were already walking away, talking among themselves about how easy it was to deal with the humans. "Another successful negotiation," Ji-Hai said quietly as they walked toward their shuttle. "Indeed," Hyunwoo replied. His voice was calm, but there was something in his eyes that had not been there during the meeting. "Something harder. How are our preparations?" 18 facilities are now operational, Ji-Hai reported. "All disguises are holding. The aliens suspect nothing. Good, and our intelligence network? We have complete data on 12 species military capabilities. Defense positions, fleet movements, command structures, communication codes. Everything. Hyunwoo nodded as they entered their shuttle. The small ship looked old and slow compared to the sleek vessels of other species, but appearances could be deceiving. On New Busan, Taimin received a coded message on his personal device. It was disguised as a weather report, but the numbers meant something very different. Military exercises were beginning ahead of schedule. All installations should be ready for activation within 72 hours. He looked out at the peaceful colony around him. Children played in the streets while their parents tended gardens and worked in small shops. It looked like any other quiet human settlement. No one would ever guess that beneath this peaceful surface lay enough firepower to destroy an entire invasion fleet. Similar messages went out to 17 other worlds. Colony administrators read weather reports that were not about weather at all. Engineers checked their terraforming equipment one more time. Families went about their daily routines, but some of the adults had a new tension in their movements. The galaxy continued to turn as it always had. Trade ships moved between systems. The Council planned new regulations. The Viridians prepared their invasion fleets and humanity waited. For 30 years, they had been the perfect galactic citizens. Quiet, helpful, and apparently harmless. They had built this reputation carefully, like farmers tending a crop. They had planted seeds of trust and watered them with compliance. They had grown a garden of complacency among the other species. But gardens have seasons. And harvest time was coming. The Viridians would learn soon enough that there was a difference between choosing peace and being unable to fight. They would discover that humans had not been weak for 30 years. They had been patient. The attack came at dawn across 18 human worlds. Viridian warships dropped out of hyperspace like angry hornets, their weapons already charging. Commander Sektar watched from his flagship as the first wave of ships moved toward the human colonies. This would be over quickly. On New Sol, the colony's warning systems began to wail. Sunja calmly walked to her office window and watched the dark shapes descending from the sky. She was not running or screaming like the Viridians expected. Instead, she reached for her communication device. All civilians to designated shelters, she announced over the colony-wide speaker system. This is not a drill. Repeat, all civilians to designated shelters immediately. The people of New Sol moved with surprising speed and order. Children were gathered from schools and led to underground bunkers that somehow existed in a colony that was supposed to be just a farming settlement. Adults helped elderly neighbors down, staircases that led to reinforced chambers deep. Beneath the surface, Commander Grixnom landed his assault ship in the main square of New Sol. He expected to find frightened humans hiding in their buildings. Instead, the colony appeared empty. The streets were clear, but there was no sign of panic or chaos. Everything was too organized, too planned. "Where are the humans?" one of his soldiers asked, looking around nervously. Before Grixnom could answer, Sunja appeared at the entrance to the main administrative building. She walked calmly across the square, her hands empty and visible. She looked like any middle-aged human woman out for a morning walk. "I am Administrator Sunja," she said in a steady voice. "I assume you are here to discuss terms of surrender." Grixnom relaxed. This was more like what he had expected. "Yes, human. Your colony now belongs to the Viridian Empire. Your people will be relocated and your resources will serve our needs." Sunja nodded thoughtfully. "I understand. You have made your choice and now we will make ours." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device that looked like a simple communication tablet. "What is that?" Grixnom demanded, raising his weapon. "This," Sunja said with a smile that was not friendly at all, "is what we call a dead man's switch." She pressed a button on the device across the galaxy. On 18 different worlds, machines that had pretended to be terraforming equipment began to change. Metal panels slid away to reveal massive weapon barrels. Disguised shield generators powered up with a hum that made the ground vibrate. Defense grids that had been hidden for years suddenly came online. On New Busan, Taimin watched as his atmospheric processor transformed into a particle cannon the size of a building. Similar weapons were revealing themselves across the colony. The peaceful farming settlement was becoming a fortress. "Target acquired," he reported into his headset. Viridian flagship bearing 270, range 15,000 kilometers. Above him, the Viridian ships were realizing that something was very wrong. Their sensors were detecting weapon signatures where there should have been only agricultural equipment. Lots of weapon signatures. Commander Sektar stared at his displays in confusion. What are those readings? Those cannot be weapons. The humans have no military installations. His weapons officer was frantically checking and rechecking his instruments. Commander, I am detecting heavy cannon emplacements across 17 colonies. Shield generators, defense networks. They are all powering up simultaneously. On New Sol, Sunja was still standing in the square facing Grixnom. You wanted to see humanity's true nature, she said calmly. Congratulations. You are about to witness what happens when you threaten our children. The first shot came from New Busan. Taiman's particle cannon fired a beam of pure energy that reached across space in seconds. It struck the Viridian flagship's forward shields and burned through them like they were made of paper. The massive ship shuddered as its armor began to melt. Impossible, Sektar roared as alarms filled his bridge. The humans have no weapons capable of this. But the impossible was happening on 18 worlds. Hidden weapons that should not have existed were firing with precision that should not have been possible. Viridian ships were being torn apart by an enemy they had thought was helpless. On New Daejeon, Donghyun activated the mining equipment he had been repairing for months. The machines rose from the ground on hidden lifts, revealing themselves to be orbital bombardment platforms. They turned their attention to the Viridian ships in orbit and began to fire. The Viridians had expected to face farmers and miners. Instead, they were fighting a coordinated defense network that had been built over decades and disguised perfectly. Every human colony was revealing weapons that were more advanced than anything the Viridians possessed. But the real shock came when Wu Jin began broadcasting on all alien communication frequencies. He was supposed to be just a xenobiology researcher studying alien plant samples, but when his image appeared on Viridian screens, he was wearing military uniform and standing on the bridge of what was clearly a warship. Attention, Viridian forces. His voice was calm and professional. You have attacked human colonies and threatened human lives. This was a mistake. You believed we were weak because we chose peace. You confused our restraint with inability. Sektar tried to shut off the transmission, but it was being broadcast on frequencies his ship could not block. The human's face appeared on every screen in his fleet. For 30 years we have been patient, Wu Jin continued. We have endured your insults, accepted unfair treaties, and allowed you to think you were superior. We did this because we preferred peace to war. But you have chosen war, so war is what you will receive. The Viridian fleet was in chaos. Half their ships were already damaged or destroyed. The others were trying to retreat, but human weapons had longer range than anything in the galactic database. There was nowhere to run. On New Sol, Grixnom stared at Sunja in horror. The quiet administrator was watching the sky where his ships were being systematically destroyed. She seemed completely calm, as if she was watching a sunset instead of a battle. This is impossible, he whispered. You are farmers, scientists, you have no military. Sunja turned to look at him. Her kind eyes had become something else entirely, something predatory. We were never farmers, she said quietly. We were soldiers pretending to be farmers. We were warriors pretending to be scientists. We were apex predators pretending to be prey, and you fell for it completely. Above them, the last Viridian ship in orbit exploded in a ball of fire. The attack on New Sol was over before it had really begun. Similar scenes were playing out across human space as the Viridian invasion force was systematically destroyed. How? Grixnom asked desperately. How did you hide all of this? Our intelligence said you had no defenses. Sunja smiled, and it was not a nice smile. Your intelligence saw exactly what we wanted them to see. We have been preparing for this moment since the day we first met your kind. Every treaty we signed gave us information about your weaknesses. Every trade deal told us about your military capabilities. Every insult you gave us was carefully noted and catalogued. She gestured to the burning wreckage falling from the sky. This is what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. This is what happens when you threaten human children. The battle was over in less than 4 hours. The Viridian invasion force that was supposed to conquer 18 worlds in a matter of days had been completely destroyed. Not a single human life had been lost in the fighting, and across the galaxy other species began to receive reports of what had happened. Reports that would change everything they thought they knew about humanity. The Viridian reinforcement fleet arrived expecting to find conquered human worlds. Instead, they found floating graveyards of twisted metal and burning debris. Commander Raltesh stared at his scanner displays in disbelief. Where was the invasion force? Where were the victory signals? Sir, his communications officer reported, I am detecting no Viridian life signs on any of the human colonies, but I am reading massive energy signatures from the planet surfaces. Before Raltesh could respond, his sensors detected movement in the asteroid field near New Busan. What he had assumed were chunks of space rock began to move in ways that rocks should not move. Metal panels slid away to reveal weapon ports and engine exhausts. Unknown vessels came a transmission in perfect Viridian language. You have entered human space without permission. You have 30 seconds to surrender or be destroyed. The voice belonged to a human woman. Raltesh had never heard a human speak their language so fluently. More disturbing was the tone of her voice. She sounded like she was looking forward to the fight. This is Captain Kyung-suk of the Human Defense Force. The woman continued. Your friends made a mistake when they attacked our colonies. You are about to make the same mistake. Raltesh looked at his tactical display. The asteroid field was full of human ships that had been hiding there. But according to galactic records, humans only had cargo vessels and old patrol ships. These looked like military destroyers and cruisers he had never seen before. Impossible, he muttered. Humans do not have a military fleet. Sir, his weapons officer called out urgently. The cargo ship approaching on our port side just dropped some kind of disguise. It is actually a destroyer-class vessel with weapon systems I do not recognize. Captain Kyung-suk's ship had indeed shed its false appearance. What had looked like a simple trading vessel was now revealed as a sleek warship, bristling with energy weapons and missile pods. Her crew, who had been listed in shipping records as colonist families, were clearly trained military personnel. You see, Kyung-suk's voice came over the communication channels. We learned something important about galactic politics. Everyone assumes cargo ships are harmless. Everyone ignores families traveling between colonies. Everyone thinks farmers and miners are not dangerous. Her ship fired a single shot across the bow of Raltesh's flagship. The energy beam was more powerful than anything in the Viridian arsenal. Everyone was wrong, she finished. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Where other species fought with honor and followed predictable tactics, humans fought like the hunters their ancestors had been. They used every dirty trick, every environmental hazard, every psychological weapon they could imagine. Minho, who had spent years disguised as an agricultural engineer, revealed himself as a master strategist. His forces did not just attack the Viridian ships. They played with them. Human vessels would appear from hidden positions, strike hard and vanish before the enemy could respond. They used the debris from earlier battles as cover. They turned the Viridians' own formations against them. They are not fighting like soldiers, Raltesh said desperately as his fleet was slowly picked apart. They are fighting like wild animals. He was not wrong. Human tactics were based on persistence hunting. Like their ancestors who had chased prey across vast distances until it collapsed from exhaustion, the human fleet harassed the Viridians constantly. They gave them no time to rest, no chance to regroup, no opportunity to think clearly. From the bridge of the dreadnought Soul's Vengeance, Ha-Un coordinated the human response across multiple star systems. The massive warship had emerged from a hidden base inside what everyone thought was an ordinary asteroid. She watched her tactical displays with the satisfaction of a predator that had finally cornered its prey. Viridian Fleet, she broadcast on all frequencies. This is Admiral Ha-Un of the Human Defense Force. I want you to understand something important. For 30 years we have been studying you. We know how you think. We know how you fight. We know your weaknesses better than you do. To prove her point, she ordered her ships to target specific weak points in Viridian ship designs, joints where armor was thinner, power conduits that were poorly shielded, command centers that were too exposed. The humans struck with surgical precision that should have been impossible. You made one critical error, Ha-Un continued as Viridian ships exploded around her. You assumed we were weak because we avoided fighting. You never considered that we avoided fighting because we were too strong. The psychological impact was devastating. The Viridians had expected to face primitive human weapons and simple tactics. Instead, they found themselves outmatched by technology they had never seen, and strategies they could not predict. What terrified them most was how much the humans seemed to enjoy the battle. Ha-Un actually laughed as she described tactical situations to her subordinates. Other human captains made jokes over open communication channels as they destroyed enemy ships. They were not angry or desperate. They were having fun. Sir, Raltesh's science officer reported with a shaking voice. I am analyzing the wreckage of our ships. The human weapons are not just more powerful than ours. They are designed specifically to counter our defensive systems. They knew exactly how to hurt us. This was the most terrifying realization of all. The humans had not just hidden their military strength. They had spent decades studying their potential enemies and building weapons designed to kill them efficiently. On New Sol, Grixnom watched the space battle from his prison cell. Sunja had not killed him, which somehow made everything worse. She wanted him to see what humanity was capable of when they stopped pretending to be harmless. Your empire sent 12,000 ships to conquer us, Sunja told him as she watched the tactical displays. We are going to destroy every single one of them, and then we are going to visit your homeworld. You cannot, Grixnom whispered. The Viridian Empire controls hundreds of systems. We have millions of soldiers. You are just 18 colonies. Sunja turned to look at him with those predator eyes. 18 colonies that you know about, she corrected. Did you really think we would put all our colonies on the official galactic maps? Did you think we would register all our ships with the Galactic Council? The implications hit Grixnom like a physical blow. If humans had hidden colonies, they might have hidden fleets as well. Military bases that had never appeared on any scan. Weapons platforms in systems that were supposed to be empty. How many of you are there, really? He asked in horror. Sunja smiled. Enough. The space battle ended 6 hours after it began. The Viridian reinforcement fleet had been completely destroyed. Not a single human ship was lost, though several had minor damage. The crew celebrated like people who had won a sporting event, rather than a desperate battle for survival. But the celebration was short-lived. Admiral Hayun was already planning the next phase of operations. The Viridians had made their choice when they attacked human colonies. Now humanity would make their response known to the entire galaxy. All ships, she broadcast to her fleet, prepare for hyperspace jump. We are going to pay a visit to the Viridian homeworld. It is time they learned what happens when you wake up sleeping predators. The human fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving only debris and silence behind. But their message was clear to anyone who might be listening. The galaxy had spent 30 years thinking humans were sheep. They had just discovered they were actually wolves in sheep's clothing, and now the wolves were hunting. News of the Viridian defeat spread across the galaxy faster than hyperspace could carry ships. On Council Station Alpha, emergency sessions were called as reports flooded in from every corner of known space. The gentle, quiet humans had not just fought back against the Viridian invasion, they had crushed it completely. Ambassador Jae-Won sat in the same chair where he had once bowed his head and accepted insulting trade agreements. But now he was no longer pretending to be weak. His diplomatic uniform had been replaced with military dress that showed rank insignia no alien had ever seen before. His gentle demeanor was gone, replaced by the calm confidence of someone who held all the cards. Honorable delegates, he said to the assembled council, I believe there has been some confusion about humanity's position in galactic affairs. Allow me to clarify a few things. The other delegates sat in stunned silence. This was not the submissive human they remembered. Counselor Vextar, the insect-like creature who had always dismissed human concerns, found his forearms trembling as he tried to process what was happening. For 32 years, Jae-Won continued, humanity has participated in this council as observers and junior partners. We accepted unfavorable treaties. We paid excessive taxes. We allowed our voices to be ignored in important decisions. This was not because we were weak or naive. He pressed a button on the podium and holographic displays filled the chamber. They showed detailed intelligence reports on every species represented in the council. Military capabilities, political structures, economic weaknesses, even personal information about individual leaders. This was because we were studying you, Jae-Won said calmly. Every treaty negotiation was an intelligence gathering operation. Every trade agreement gave us access to your economic data. Every diplomatic dinner party let us learn about your leaders' personal habits and psychological profiles. The delegates stared at the displays in horror. The information was incredibly detailed and accurate. Some of it was classified data that should have been impossible for outsiders to obtain, but the humans had it all. Counselor Zek Prime of the Arthonian Republic found his own psychological profile displayed for everyone to see. It included details about his fear of closed spaces, his gambling addiction, and his secret meetings with arms dealers. Information that could destroy his career if it became public. How? He whispered. Our security systems are impenetrable. Jaewon smiled with the same expression Soonja had used when facing Grixnom. Your security systems were designed to stop other aliens. They were never designed to stop humans. We think differently than you do. We approach problems from angles you never considered. On the flagship Seoul's Vengeance, Admiral Ha-Yun was demonstrating exactly what Jaewon meant. Her fleet had arrived at the Viridian homeworld of Sec Prime, but instead of immediately attacking, they had taken position around the planet and begun broadcasting. Citizens of Sec Prime, Ha-Yun's voice reached every communication device on the planet. This is Admiral Ha-Un of the Human Defense Force. Your government has attacked human colonies and murdered human families. This was unacceptable. Emperor Sekmal, the supreme ruler of the Viridian Empire, watched from his palace as human ships filled the sky above his capital city. He had expected the humans to attack immediately. Instead, they seemed to be waiting for something. We could destroy your world in minutes, Ha-Yun continued. Our weapons are powerful enough to crack your planet's crust or boil away your oceans. But we are not here to commit genocide. We are here to teach a lesson. What happened next became known throughout the galaxy as the Viridian Lesson. The human fleet used precise, surgical strikes to disable every military installation on the planet. Defense satellites were destroyed. Military bases were reduced to rubble. Weapon manufacturing facilities simply vanished under controlled explosions. But civilian areas were left completely untouched. Hospitals, schools, and residential districts were not targeted at all. The humans were demonstrating something that terrified every government in the galaxy. They could destroy military targets with perfect precision, while leaving civilians unharmed. Your military no longer exists, Ha-Yun announced after 6 hours of precise destruction. Your empire's war fleets have been eliminated. Your weapons factories are gone, but your people are safe because we chose to make them safe. Emperor Sekmal realized he was looking at a new kind of warfare. The humans were not just more powerful than the Viridians. They were more controlled, more precise, more terrifying in their restraint than other species were in their fury. Su-Bin, speaking from the bridge of another human dreadnought, addressed the galaxy through communication networks that somehow reached every inhabited world simultaneously. No one understood how the humans had gained access to these secure channels. But her message was heard by billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. People of the galaxy, she began, you have known humanity for 3 decades. You thought we were weak because we chose peace. You mistook our restraint for inability. You believed we were inferior because we did not conquer and dominate like other species. Her image appeared on screens in the council chambers, in alien military headquarters, in government buildings across known space. She was a small, unremarkable-looking human woman, but her words carried the weight of absolute authority. Every slight, every condescending remark, every inferior species comment has been catalogued. We have been very, very patient. We allowed you to think you were superior because it served our purposes. We have been studying you like scientists study laboratory specimens. The implications were staggering. If humans had been pretending to be weak while actually being incredibly strong, what else had they been hiding? How many human colonies really existed? How large was their military? How long had they been planning for this moment? On Sec Prime, the Viridian Empire formally surrendered within hours of the demonstration. Emperor Sekmal signed documents that dissolved his government and placed his people under human protection. It was not conquest in the traditional sense. It was more like adoption. Insu, the human administrator assigned to oversee the transition, explained the new arrangement to the former emperor. Your people will be relocated to a nature preserve on the southern continent. You will have everything you need to live comfortable lives. Homes, food, medical care, education for your children. But, Sekmal asked, knowing there had to be conditions. But no technology above Stone Age level. Insu replied cheerfully. No weapons, no vehicles, no communication devices. You can live peacefully as your ancestors did before you developed spaceflight. We think it will be good for your mental health. It was not execution, but it was the complete end of the Viridian Empire as a galactic power. They would exist as a protected species on a single world, watched over by humans who would make sure they never again threatened anyone. The message to the rest of the galaxy was clear. This was what happened to species that attacked human colonies. Not death, but the complete loss of their place in galactic civilization. Back on Council Station Alpha, Jae-won concluded his presentation to the terrified delegates. Humanity wishes to continue participating in galactic civilization, he said formally. But we will no longer accept the role of junior partners or charity cases. We will participate as equals or we will not participate at all. And if we refuse? Asked Counselor Vextar, though his voice was barely above a whisper. Jae-won smiled politely. Then we will do to you what we did to the Viridians. We will remove you as a threat to galactic peace and stability. But we will do it more efficiently next time, because now we know our weapons work properly. The council session ended in stunned silence. Within days, new treaties were being written. Treaties that recognized humanity as a major galactic power. Treaties that gave humans equal voice in all decisions. Treaties that no one dared to oppose. The galaxy had awakened to a new reality. Humanity was not the weakest species in known space, they were the strongest. And they had been patiently waiting for someone to give them an excuse to prove it. 1 year later, the galaxy had settled into its new reality. The gentle sounds of everyday life had returned to most worlds. But everyone remembered the lessons learned when the humans stopped pretending to be harmless. On Council Station Alpha, the monthly trade meetings had a very different atmosphere. When Commander Sung-min entered the chamber, conversation stopped. Delegates who had once ignored human representatives now stood when he walked by. His military uniform was crisp and clean, with rank insignia that every species in the galaxy had learned to recognize and respect. "Good morning, everyone," Sung-min said pleasantly as he took his seat. "I trust the trade route discussions have been productive?" Counselor Vextar, who had once dismissed human concerns with casual arrogance, now spoke carefully and politely. "Commander, we have prepared 3 different proposals for your review. All of them include the profit-sharing arrangements you requested." Sung-min nodded approvingly. "Excellent. I appreciate your attention to detail, Counselor. Fair partnerships benefit everyone, don't you think?" The irony was not lost on anyone in the room. The humans were being more reasonable than they had ever been when they were supposedly weak. They did not make excessive demands or threaten violence. They simply stated their requirements clearly and waited for others to meet them. The alternative to cooperation was too frightening to consider. On New Sol, now rebuilt as one of humanity's fortress worlds, Soonja gave tours to visiting alien dignitaries. The colony had been transformed from a simple farming settlement into a monument of human engineering. Massive defense installations rose from the landscape like metal mountains. Their weapons pointed toward the stars. "This is Installation 17, Soonja explained to a group of nervous Arthonian officials. "It can destroy a capital ship at a range of 50,000 kilometers. We have 43 similar installations on this world alone." The Arthonians took careful notes, trying not to show their fear. They were here to negotiate a new mining agreement, and they wanted to make sure they offered terms the humans would find acceptable. "Of course," Soonja continued with a smile. "These weapons are purely defensive. We only use them if someone threatens our people. As long as everyone behaves reasonably, they will never be fired again." The subtle threat was understood by everyone. Humanity had built fortress worlds as reminders of what happened when you attacked human colonies, but they were also demonstrations of restraint. The humans could have built these weapons decades ago, but they had chosen not to reveal them until they were forced to defend themselves. In the former Viridian space, now called the Protected Zone, Bo Young oversaw the reconstruction of what had once been a galactic empire. The surviving Viridians lived peacefully in their nature preserve, tending gardens and raising families without the burden of maintaining an interstellar military. "How are they adjusting?" asked her assistant, a young human named Taehwan who was learning colonial administration. "Better than expected," Bo Young replied as she watched a group of Viridian children playing in a meadow. "They seem happier without the stress of running an empire. Their crime rates have dropped to almost 0, and their health indicators are improving." It was an odd form of victory. The humans had not killed their enemies or enslaved them. They had simply removed their ability to threaten others and given them a chance to live peaceful lives. It was mercy, but mercy backed by overwhelming force. The transformation was most obvious in the Galactic Council itself. Chanwu, who had once pretended to be a timid diplomat, now spoke with quiet authority that no one dared to challenge. When he made suggestions, they were implemented quickly. When he expressed concerns, they were addressed immediately. The Council will consider the Rigelian proposal for expanded mining rights, Chanwu said during a recent session. However, I noticed that the environmental impact studies are incomplete. Perhaps we should delay the vote until proper assessments can be completed. The Rigelian delegate nodded eagerly. Of course, Ambassador Chanwu. We want to make sure all protocols are followed properly. A year ago, the same delegate would have dismissed human environmental concerns and pushed for an immediate vote. Now he was genuinely concerned about meeting human standards. Everyone had learned that humans paid attention to details that other species ignored, and those details often turned out to be important. The new galactic order was not based on fear alone. Humans had proven to be fair partners when treated with respect. Trade agreements were honored precisely. Diplomatic promises were kept without exception. Technical assistance was provided generously to species that maintained peaceful relations, but the memory of the Viridian lesson ensured that respect was never forgotten. On the memorial world of New Dijon, So Young maintained the monument that had become the most visited site in human space. Beings from across the galaxy came to see the simple stone pillar, with its carved message in dozens of languages. The words were etched in black granite that caught the light of the system's twin suns. Humans, we gave you the choice to treat us as friends. You chose to make us your apex predators instead. Choose more wisely next time. So Young watched as a group of young aliens read the inscription with their teacher. They had been born after the Viridian War, but they would grow up understanding the lesson their parents had learned the hard way. What does it mean? One of the children asked. The teacher, a wise Centaurian elder, explained carefully. It means that humans prefer peace to war. But if you force them to choose war, they will be very good at it. Better than anyone else, the child nodded seriously, filing away this important information for the future. Back on Earth, in the hidden command centers that had coordinated humanity's emergence as a galactic power, military planners continued their work. They had revealed some of their capabilities to the galaxy, but not all of them. Restraint remained humanity's greatest strength. Admiral Ha-Yun, now commanding the entire human defense fleet, reviewed reports from across known space. Pirate activity was down by 90%. Interspecies conflicts had dropped to their lowest levels in recorded history. Trade disputes were being resolved through negotiation rather than warfare. It seems that having a galaxy-wide apex predator has been good for general stability, she noted to her staff. Everyone is too busy not provoking us to fight with each other. Her aide, Commander Yu Jin, looked up from his data tablet. What about the unexplored regions beyond Rigelian space? Long-range sensors are detecting signs of industrial activity. Ha-Yun nodded thoughtfully. The galaxy was a large place, and not all intelligent species had been discovered yet. Someday humanity might encounter aliens who had not learned the lessons the Viridians had taught. Continue monitoring, she ordered. If we find new species, we will follow the established protocol. Peaceful contact, careful observation, and patient evaluation of their intentions. And if they prove hostile? Ha-Yun smiled with the same expression humans had been using for the past year when discussing galactic security. Then we will teach them the same lesson we taught everyone else. Humans prefer peace to war, but we are very good at both. The galaxy continued to turn, carrying its cargo of worlds and civilizations through the cosmic dark. Trade flowed freely between systems. Scientific research advanced through cooperation between species. Art and culture were shared across interstellar distances. And at the heart of it all, humanity stood watch. Not as conquerors or tyrants, but as guardians who had learned that sometimes peace could only be maintained by those strong enough to enforce it. The other species had spent centuries believing that strength meant the willingness to attack. Humanity had taught them that true strength meant the ability to attack, combined with the wisdom to choose not to. It was a lesson the galaxy would not forget. The beasts had been awakened, had proven their point, and had chosen to return to their preferred role as protectors rather than predators. But everyone remembered what they were capable of when threatened, and that memory kept the peace.